Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. So, in this video I'm going to be talking about summons, basically. I'm going to be talking about the banners and I'm going to be talking about a subject that people have been talking about quite a bit. And it's going to be pity, right? And it's came up because, because of Akuma first of all, but more or less because of this guy, okay? So I need to address the elephant in the room before I get into this because I already know what the comments will be filled with. When we spoke about like hidden pities and stuff like that, it was never because we wanted them to be taken away. It was literally just so that we knew what they actually were, because it exists with divination as well. People were saying it was 5, 6, 7, 8. No one actually knew the set number, right? So when it comes to divination, I had heard initially it was 6. Now I think that's actually because it was 6. It is 6 in AFK Arena, and I think a lot of people just assumed it was the same, right? Honestly, I think that's what it was. Whereas from me summoning, I never went over 8. I always got the unit by summon number 8, right? So I always low-key seen it as pity was 8, right? But again, people just wanted to know. That was it. We wanted to know, because if we know, we knew what we could aim for, right? Now, with the latest update dropping Vega, we could also go back and talk about Akuma, but right now we're talking about Vega. There's definitely not pity. It's not there, right? Because we've got enough video footage of people. I haven't gone over 8 myself personally, right? But you can see it in Payne's video, you can see it in Marky's video, that you can now go over what people thought was the maximum you could go without getting the unit. So it seems that pity has been removed, okay? However, we don't know that for a fact because they've never admitted it was there to begin with. So they can't really say it's been taken away if they never told you it was there. This is why transparency was something that was looked for, because then you could kind of look back on this, right? So obviously, I'm going to actually use, to discuss this, I'm actually going to use Payne's summoning experience, and the reason being it's just, there's a larger amount, basically, that I can talk about because he done more summons than Mark. So, if we look at Payne's summon, a lot of you probably seen it, and you think, oh my god, that was awful. It was terrible. He got what he wanted, but it took him a lot, and he had to do a lot of summons. You would actually be surprised to hear that Payne was actually lucky, right? And this is why I'm going to speak about the wider issue with the summoning system in this game. So Payne was actually lucky, believe it or not, and I'll show you why just now, right? So I've already got this noted down, but for the sake of you guys having something visual to look at, I'm going to put a calculator up on screen, and then that way you can see these numbers playing out in front of you, right? So I've got my calculator just now. Right, so Payne needed to get 10 copies of Vega because he used his dupes to pick up 4 copies before he started summoning. So to get the unit to SSS, he needed 10 copies of that unit, okay? It cost him 500 tickets, okay? So if we take 500 and we divide that by 10, because 10 will give you the amount of tickets you use per multi-summon. It'll give us 50, right? But divide it by 10, okay? So that's 50 multis, right? He hit 10 units within that pool. So if we again divide that by 10, that means that Payne's hit rate was 5, right? So Payne's hit rate was 5, which means within an average of 5 multi-summons, he hit a copy of Vega, right? Now, that means he used 500 tickets, okay? Just to be clear, that's where we are with that. And that is a hit rate of a unit every 5 summons. Now, if we were to look at pity, okay? So if we look at pity, and we go back to our calculator, so with pity, you are getting a unit every 8 pulls. That was what my experience of pity was, right? And if you take 8, divide it by the 10 units, okay, and then times that by 10, okay, that would be 800 tickets, right? So he actually beat pity rate quite significantly. He beat pity rate by 300, which seems like a lot. I mean, it does, it seems like a lot, right? So you guys have obviously seen that video and you thought to yourself, wow, that was rough. It's shocking that we don't have pity on these banners. But he actually smashed pity. He like completely smashed pity. If he was hitting on pity every time, which obviously seems unlikely, 800 summons is how 800 single summons or tickets is how long it would take to actually hit that total. So that's obviously extremely high, right? Now to kind of put that into a greater context, we'll just go back to Pain again, right? So Pain's hit rate was 5, which means every 5 multis, 50 tickets, he hit a Vega. So let's just assume he didn't have those extra tickets, right? And he continued on at that hit rate. He would have done 700 tickets to get his 14 copies of Vega needed to hit SSS, right? If you look at what the pity total would have been for that, you honestly, you do not want to know. It would have been 1,120 tickets if you hit pity every single time, right? So if we just go back to the standard amount, so the 800, which was your pity total, and your 500, which was what Pain obviously used, and we look at what that gem equivalent would be. So for Pain, he used 500 tickets, which is 50 multis. One multi cost you 5,000 gems. So if we do this, times it by 5,000, the equivalent to get 10 copies would have been 250,000 gems, right? So if we work off of the pity total, which was 80 multis, okay? So 80 multis at 5,000 a multi, so we go times 5,000, because each one of them was going to cost you 5,000. That would give you 400,000 gems just to get 10 copies, right? Remember, this is the pity that everyone wants back in the game. Now, the whole point in what I'm showing you this for is, one, pity actually isn't, as it was, isn't actually a great saviour of this summoning system, because even with pity, you can see the numbers that you have to get are insane, right? They're absolutely insane. So realistically, the thing that's wrong with this game is the amount of dupes that you need. I've said this the whole time. Having pity totals, yeah, great, cool, it would be awesome. At least you think it would be awesome. But if you're having to hit pity all the time, because you still need so many copies of a unit, that is just for 10 copies, right? So most people would argue that a unit isn't usable until you hit SSS, right? So SSS, what we're looking at? We're looking at 8, right? So that would be your pity total. You hit 8, you get a copy of the unit. Times 14. Okay. No, that was wrong. Was that wrong? No, that's right, that's right. Okay, then times that by 10, because we're using tickets, right? Times that by 10. You would need 1,120 divination tokens. If pity was there to hit SSS, you would need 1,120 divination tokens. Now again, if we divide that by 10 again to put us back to our other number, divide that by 10. By 10. Again, that is the amount of multis we would have to do, and they cost 5,000 a multi. So it would cost 560,000 diamonds just to hit a copy of a unit getting to SSS. So the point I'm making in this video is not to say that we don't need pity. Not at all. The game should have pity, plain and simple. It's to say that even with pity, with the amount of dupes you need for one unit to be usable, it's insane. It's mental. They either need to do what I've suggested before, which is add in some sort of a universal dupe system. They need to make less characters like this, because obviously if you've got other ways of getting characters, whether it be through rewards, through tokens that you don't get that often once you're quite far into the game, do you know what I mean? Whether you can get them from places like that, that's obviously going to help. If every couple of awakenings you can use any unit from that pool of characters, that obviously helps a bit because you don't need to get as many dupes. But the fundamental flaw with the system is how much it costs to summon, with the added factor of how many copies of a unit you actually need to be usable. Now again, using Payne's example, he actually got lucky, so his cost of 500 tickets is low. It's low. He's hit the unit 1 in 5. So 1 in 5 multis, he on average hit a copy of that unit. That means that if you look at his total of 500 tickets used just to get that unit 10 times, if you look at that and you think to yourself, that is absolutely insane, then what you have to realise is he was lucky. So that says the flaw with this system isn't the fact that pity's missing, which again, it shouldn't be, that is an issue in itself. It's the fact that the pity total, even if it's 5 realistically, is too high. Right, it is, it's too high. The cost of summoning, the availability of gems, the availability of places where you can grind divination tokens, for example. People will say AFK, the pity total in that 6, the costs are very similar, which they are. But what I've noticed so far from playing that is you have a lot more avenues to earn these things. You can earn a lot of the different types of summoning tokens, which would be, there's an equivalent of the divination pool and there's an equivalent of the special banner, so to speak. One's called like the stargazing room and the other one's something else. You can earn those right quite frequently in lots of different places, whereas Street Fighter, it doesn't have that. Sure, the game's new, right? That's going to be a lot of people's argument, but the fact is they've introduced all these systems of monetization when the game is so new, so the avenue for people to earn those currencies should also be available. Because as it stands right now, taking the number of units required, the cost to do it, and the fact that there is no pity, but again, like I said, even with pity it's still ridiculous. It's very hard to see how people are going to enjoy, grow, continue to play with the systems that are in place, because remember, 2 weeks time, there's going to be a new unit, and it's probably going to be another limited unit, and then 2 weeks after that there'll be another unit. The way they've been going, it'll probably be another one of these units, you know. It's going to be very hard. Like, most people aren't even going to have one unit halfway done before another unit comes up that they're going to want to shift to. Now I know that's a player problem, I know that people don't have to summon for every unit that's available, they don't, really, they really don't. But in this game specifically, because they don't have very many avenues as a free-to-play player, whether it be earning it through redemptions and events, or whether it be earning it through milestones or achievements that they could add that would give us more of those currencies to use in these type of systems, it just comes off as a system that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to stick with, even whales or high spenders, because if we look at the totals that I mentioned there, even if you got lucky being someone like Payne and you went on and it took you 700 tickets to get that character just to SSS, how long is it going to be before you realise, hang on, I was 700 on that, 700 on that, 700 on that, I've spent 5 grand, 6 grand to get free characters in this game, what am I doing? It's going to be a realisation moment that happens to most players that are spending, and I just think that they need to rework these systems. They absolutely need to rework these systems, whether it be, like I said, making the currency at least somewhat grindable, at least somewhat earnable, so that people can maybe get lucky, but maybe bring down their costs a little bit. I feel like it would be a more attractive prospect to a lot more people. So sure, not having pity is a huge issue. However, even with pity, the amount of summons required and the cost is insane. It's insane. And free-to-play players who right now are thinking, you know what, if there was pity on this banner, it would be great for me. Let's just really look right now at what it would cost you if there was pity and you had to go to pity to get that unit. That's for one copy. 40k diamonds. And remember, the unit's not going to be usable to you until you hit at least SS, if we say SS, right? So you can take that total and you can multiply that by at least 10. And as a free-to-play player, if you had to hit pity every time, you would need that amount of diamonds for a unit in this divination system to be useful to you. So without more ways for you to grind these pools for free, whether it be higher rewards from events, whether it be more places to get your divination tokens, even with pity, the situation is going to be exactly the same for you. So I hope they do bring pity back. I hope they make the amount lower. I hope they reduce the amount of dupes. Either would work. Make the pity amount lower, like as in less summons to achieve it, or work on the dupe system to bring that down. Or simply enough, give people more ways to earn this currency, because long term, I just see it being an issue. This is not a moaning video, this is a black and white showing you kind of how this works out, because I've seen a lot of people talking about paying summons 500 tickets to only get 10 copies. Wow, that's awful, this is why we need pity. I just wanted to show you that even with pity, he actually beat the odds. So, there you go. Anyway guys, I've been Hayzink, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next video. Peace.